Hey Wargamers, you've probably heard by now that Games Workshop is increasing the wound count on Marines and they are dialing up the killiness of a ton of different weapons across the board. And we've speculated for a while now that that's going to apply to a bunch of different armies, right? That everybody's going to get some benefit in their new codex. And today Games Workshop came out and said, yeah, that's true. Everybody's going to get, a dial up of their killiness. And that's awesome. That's cool. And that sounds fair, right? But what they also said was, here are a bunch of profiles and here are the units that are going to benefit from that across the board. And a lot of those things were very common weapons across the 41st millennium, things like power swords all over the place. Storm shields, yeah, in certain factions, certainly. But one of the things that really caught my eye, of course, was the Flamer, because of that huge list of things that they revealed, the only one that Tau actually have access to is the Flamer. They said that Flamers are going to go to a 12-inch range, which is cool. And they actually pointed out that crisis suits are one of the units that are going to benefit from this the most. And the reason for that is kind of straightforward, right? It has a longer range, which means that not only does it work better offensively, it's easier to get in range to use that Flamer, but it also is a guaranteed use in Overwatch. That's critical, right? That 12-inch range means that a charge can never be declared against you that is out of range of your Flamers. One of the big drawbacks of Flamers right now is that they have that 8-inch range, meaning an opponent 9 inches away that wants to charge in on you can totally negate that Overwatch potential. At 12-inch range, that's no longer the case. So that is a huge buff. Understandably, a lot of people look at this news and get really excited. It's a big buff and it's exciting. It's fun to think about crisis suits running around with flamers going pew pew pew. And so the reaction is, let me get all of my flamer bits out of the box and put them on my crisis suits, because that's the new meta. That's, don't talk to me unless it's a crisis suit with flamers, because I don't got time for that. I need my flamer suits. And, like I said, that's understandable. It's an exciting change. Does that make sense? Let's look at the numbers a little bit here. All right, so a while ago I did this video where I calculated the offensive points efficiency of a bunch of different units for the Tau Empire, and when I looked at toughness 3, 5-up save, so you're like, your standard kind of Xenos guy, your guardsman, that sort of thing. When that's the target, triple flamers are the most points efficient thing. They are highly points efficient at taking out those weak infantry units, and the numbers here don't change just because you increase the range of it, right? This is all assuming that you're able to target the thing that you're shooting. So having a 12-inch range doesn't change the points efficiency. It only changes your opportunity to actually achieve that points efficiency. And so having that 12-inch range is a buff, but it doesn't change the math here. And so when we're looking at points efficiency, yes, we see that flamers are very efficient at taking out those weak infantry units, but right now, the meta isn't weak infantry units. Right now, the meta is Marines, right? And so if we're looking at toughness for 2 wound things with 3-up save, flamers are actually pretty bad at that. They're actually, really bad at that compared to other things that you could take, like cyclic ion blasters on your crisis suit or a Riptide. Those things are much better Marine killers than flamers. And so I think it's helpful to kind of look at where the flamer ranks in these different scenarios to really get an understanding of how well-rounded a flamer suit would be. All right, so here is a list of things that are good at killing toughness 3 things. It's the unit and their efficiency against toughness 3, and then next to that is their efficiency versus toughness 4. And you'll see that the things that are really good at taking out toughness 3 are not as good at taking out toughness 4. Makes sense, right? Here's that same list sorted by that efficiency against toughness 4, and you'll see that flamers totally drop off the top of that list, right? We're looking at Riptides, we're looking at cyclic ion blasters, we're not looking at flamers when we're targeting Marines. And so maybe, if you're going to a tournament and you think, yeah, there's a roughly equal chance that I'll run into, this toughness 3 based army or this toughness 4 based army, you might say, I want to take the average, which I wouldn't actually do, right? Because your odds of running into each of those armies are not equal. So, if you're looking at this as a decision-making tool, you really would want to take a weighted average, perhaps, or just totally abandon averages overall. And so if we look at the average points efficiency of any of these units versus a toughness 3 and versus a toughness 4, take the average of that and sort it, we actually see this. And flamers do come out on top again, meaning that if you are assuming you're going to have access to both toughness 3 and toughness 4 targets, flamers are reasonable, right? They're a good middle of the road option. They're going to give you really good efficiency against toughness 3 and not overwhelmingly bad efficiency against toughness 4. Really what this means is that they are so good against toughness 3 that on average, their lower efficiency against toughness 4 things is made up for by that. And so again, I don't know if this is really a good decision-making tool at that point. I really do think if you're going to be facing toughness 4 things, if you think that's the more likely thing, don't go with flamers, go with something else. But still, I think this is a little bit of statistical evidence to suggest that taking flamers, especially when they're range 12 and you can actually use them, could be cool, could work out. More importantly than really looking at the numbers here, I think this increase to 12 inches opens up 2 doors for flamers for Tau. One is that, you could put a bunch of flamers on a crisis suit, but there are other ways that you could do that. It might not be as points efficient, but it might be more tactically feasible, right? I really don't want to invest that much on a flamer crisis suit unit. I can get the same type of efficiency looking at units of like gun drones, for example. Might be one way that I could get comparable efficiency without having to invest in flamer suits. But again, there's caveats there too, right? They're not necessarily as well. They are not as durable, and they're not going to have the same type of tactical flexibility that your crisis suits are going to have. So there's pros and cons on either side. But on top of that, I think this does open up the door more for including a flamer in a crisis suit unit more as a defensive option, right? Like maybe you're going to, take your 2 fusion blasters, take your 2 cyclic ion blasters and throw that flamer in there on top of it. Maybe you're looking more at flamers on your ghost keels or on your storm surges, that sort of thing. I think that makes a lot more sense. And that's a really, really cool choice in those particular instances, right? Crisis suits are able to take three flamers and drop down and burn, 1 unit or something. But, your ghost keel is going to be inherently vulnerable to charges. Taking those flamers on there, I think, makes a lot of sense because of that. Same thing kind of with your storm surge, giving it those flamers, nice perk. So overall, I think this is obviously a big buff to flamers. I think taking triple flamer crisis suits is statistically efficient against certain targets, but do we know if those targets are really going to be plentiful enough to justify their cost? That's unclear right now. We really got to wait for those codices to come out. I do think, finally, I just want to add this one little point, that this is actually a really cool way that Games Workshop is looking to, kind of sweeten the pot for every codex, right? We just had Psychic Awakenings. We just bought books, not very long ago. And so I think Games Workshop is aware that a lot of us just bought these books, and they want to make the new codex appealing. So they're going to be dialing up the damage, giving us something new and special in each of these books to really entice us to buy them. And maybe that means new units for everybody. That would be cool, right? I mean, they're certainly doing that with Marines and Necrons right now. If every army kind of got that treatment, I think that would be a grand slam, a really easy win for Games Workshop. So far so good. I'm excited about these changes, and I'm really eager to see what the rest of the Tau arsenal looks like in the new codex. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, happy wargaming. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This channel is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining our community over there as well. Special thanks to Shifty, Michael Byrne, Jim Bob, Tao Oswell, Drew Prattley, Stephen Cohen, Jake Johnson, Memini Painting, Richard B., Jose Gomez, Alex Hanna, Ruger, Jacob Harkrider, Mark Shoring, Zealous Brimstone, Jared Egler, and Chris Kessler.